Hey everyone, welcome back to Speak Truth Sports. It's been a while since we've posted. However, I can't miss draft season. Y'all know me. I love the draft. And today we are joined once again by someone who was a guest on the channel a couple of years ago. His Instagram @ is pissed off Wizards fan, but I'll let you introduce yourself.
Oh yeah, that's all you need to know about me. Just a Wizards fan from suburban Virginia. Just excited about the draft as well. It's always a fun thing, and it's coming up in 3 days. So let's just get into it.
Yep, let's get right into it. So, how this is going to work is that myself, Bert, and Wes, we are going to switch off picks back and forth. And I'm going to be starting off number one with the Hawks. The Hawks are an interesting spot. They have a few different roads they can take, and I think each prospect they could take lends cleanly down that road. If they really wanted to blow it up and start new, they could go with someone like Alex Sarr. However, Alex Sarr has said he doesn't, well, not said, but there are rumors that he does not want to play for the Hawks and he's not attended a single workout for them. So he's probably off the board. Um, if they are committing to Trey Young, I think a hard commit would see them picking up Donovan Clingan because he immediately helps them right away on interior defense. And he does have some upside, maybe not as high as Sarr, but he has some upside to him, especially with his passing and potentially shooting, which has been contested because he didn't shoot during the season, but he just started killing it in workouts. And I do want to interject that there are big guys who can shoot better than you think, but they don't get the chance to because their system or their coach does not let them. For example, like Dwight Howard, he that was like a big thing for him for a while. He said he wanted to take more shots, but certain coaches wouldn't let him do that. And then there's Reese Shea, who we could also take here for the Hawks. And that's kind of the more middle option where he can help right away, and he does have some upside going into the future. Um, although I will say the Hawks are they have a lot of wings right now, at least at the four position, which is where I kind of see Reese Shea ending up playing mostly at the four. So I'm gonna take Klingon here, Donovan Clingan for the Hawks, and I think he'll immediately help their interior defense. This is a hard commit to Trey Young. I think they're going to try and make this work, and hopefully this move will be able to vault their defense high enough to where they can sneak to like a top six spot in the East. Like that's the hope that you'd want for them to sneak into there, as opposed to being in the play-in again.
Right, right. And yeah, just to add on to that, I think uh this Hawks team, they don't have their pick for the next 3 years. They have like two unprotected firsts and a swap owned to San Antonio the next 3 seasons. So I don't think they're really interested in like fully rebuilding, tearing it down, and willing to be like awful. I think they want to be competitive. I think Klingon makes sense here. I think he can be a starting five because I think he has the body, his NBA body. He's ready in that regard. I think the screening will translate. I think the passing will translate. I think the touch is good enough that he can be a starting center on your team and you can be a good team. Like it's not. I don't think he's someone you have to wait for. So I think realistically it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I mean over his last 18 games, he averaged 2.9 blocks, and that is not an easy thing to do. So this guy,
Yeah,
like, he's going to shore up their defense immediately, and if he improves the passing and shooting, he actually does have some real upside to him.
sure.
So the next pick will be going to Wes for the Wizards. So go right ahead.
So yeah, as you mentioned, there's the top three of Klingon, Risa Shea, and Alex Sarr. I think when it comes down to it, will be between Risa Shea and Sarr, even though like there's the analytical darling and Reed Shepard, who I love as well as a prospect and would consider taking him. But I'm just gonna get into it. I'm gonna take Alex Sarr because I'm personally very high on his defensive ceiling. I think it's really, really high. I think he's shown a level of switchability that can be very valuable for a defensive scheme, like you see with the Miami Heat with Bam Adebayo. He makes that scheme work with the switchability, and he's the reason why the Heat's floor is so good with Jimmy Butler missing games and their offense just being completely bad. Like he is like completely carrying that defense because of the switchability and also other things. But not to say he's Bam Adebayo, but I think his switchability can be very valuable. Obviously, his rim protection also, I think, really good. And the offense is the big question mark. The floor is kind of low there. He's right now currently scrawny, and the shot isn't really at the level where it needs to be now. And like the only scoring flashes I think for the most part are in transition, which look fluid, but in the half court it kind of gets the touch gets exposed a bit. But I believe the offensive upside is there, but the floor is quite low. But if you're the Wizards, you're not going to be good for the next few years. You can be patient with him. This is a risk I'm more than comfortable with taking here with Alex R.
I totally agree, and I think this is an amazing pick for the Wizards. Exactly what they needed. I guess the hope with Alex Sarr offensively is he becomes like a Walmart AD. Well, I guess that's what this whole game. I guess he kind of becomes like a Walmart AD. Uh, even though he's a little bit raw right now, I think I've seen enough shooting upside with him, and I think I've seen enough passing upside with him that he's such an intriguing prospect. And like the first thing that stands out when you watch Alex Sarr is how swift and mobile he is at his size.
Right.
And
I
that's
believe,
something that you can't find everywhere.
yeah, I think he's definitely taller than the 6'11" listed right here.
Mhm,
I think I'd assume 7'1", but I can't, don't quote me on that. But all right,
mhm.
let's move on to
All right.
Houston.
I'm up next with Houston, and Houston could go in a number of different directions here. What's weird is that like they have so many young players that like whoever they pick kind of will end up probably coming off the bench for them. I'm gonna pick a guy who's I think he's mocked them pretty frequently now. But I just think he's such a perfect fit that he slots in so well to what the Rockets have right now. I'm gonna go with Reed Shepherd. Reed Shepherd's a guy who he's a little small, but he has his defensive numbers and like his steal percentage and block rate for a guard who is that small is insane. And there are some question marks about, can he defend at the next level? I think he'll be all right. I think there'll be some growing pains for sure. But I watched almost every Kentucky game, and I mean, Reed and Rob coming off the bench was like the entire Kentucky offense. The starting lineup was not great in terms of generating offense. It was literally Reed and Rob together. And what's great about Reed Shepherd is he works amazing off ball or on ball. I'm someone who believes in his on ball playmaking a little more than most people. And I think Reed's a great pick here, especially on a Rockets team with multiple ball handlers. Having him come off screens and be able to shoot and provide some defense is an amazing. He fits in seamlessly, I think, into this Rockets team. I think he could help right away, and I think he'll end up helping a lot down the road.
Yeah, I think I know like it's been said a lot, but the fact he shot 52% from three as a freshman, like that just doesn't happen.
Mhm.
Like this draft, like any draft, like this is like rare for a freshman to be this impactful. If you look at the metrics, he was like how much worse Kentucky was with him off the floor was just like completely insane.
And he's someone like doesn't make a lot of mistakes, like when you watch him, he like there's obviously a few lowlights where like there's a couple of games very late where he just did not make good decisions, but like for the most part, like 95% of the game, he would make the right choice, he would make the right read. He has a very high IQ, and I'd be excited to draft him if I was the Rockets. I'd be really, really excited.
Yeah, and I don't think Houston's going to put him in that position where he has to handle the ball. You have Van Vliet, Jalen Green, and then Thompson. You already said that he'd work very well off the ball, and I think he can kind of like develop his on ball stuff like along the way. But he's not going to be put in a position where he has to like lead an offense. Like as you said, like this Rockets young core is very set. They were not supposed to get the third overall pick this year.
Yeah. And I will say I love his fit with Amen Thompson. I think it's a
Yeah,
great
for sure, definitely.
that's a really good backcourt. All right, you are up next for the Spurs.
Yeah, so I think the main thing with the Spurs is like they kind of need. I think they need just like offensive guard play around Wemby is kind of what everyone said. Um, like I like Trey Jones, but he's not the guy long term, and he doesn't have really much, if any, shooting gravity or scoring gravity for them. But I mean, yeah. scroll down a bit. Roster. But yeah, I say right now, like I don't really see a long term guard on that roster unless you consider like Vassell a shooting guard, right?
Hmm.
So I'm looking at Rob Dillingham. Now I want to choose him so bad because he is a firecracker offensively. The shooting, the mid range, 3 point pull up, and he work off the ball as well. I think the handle would definitely translate. And I think in an interview he said if he was drafted by the Spurs, my job is to get the ball to Wemby, which is he's a scorer first. So like I think in terms of just like creating spacing and like another threat off of Wemby, I think no one comes close for who's on the board currently. So I really want to pick him, and I think I will. We're gonna do the Kentucky guards back to back just because I love what Dillingham could possibly do for this team.
I like your boldness at this pick. I love Rob Dillingham as well. Unfortunately, I think he's gonna slide a fair bit on like actual draft night. Um, this is an interesting pick. You're spicing up a little right here, but I like it. I think Rob Dillingham is a good fit with Wemby actually. Even though Rob doesn't he's not a really a great defender at all. Trust me, I've I
Oh yeah, for sure.
watched his defense. He was not very good. I think he even admitted it himself. But I think if you pair him with a guy like Vassell and then you pair him with a guy like Wemby who can kind of cover up for him, I'm someone who's really high on Rob Dillingham. I kind of have him in like Walmart Trey Young tier. And I think his playmaking is a little bit underrated. I think a lot of people say he's like a decent playmaker. I think he's pretty good. And I think the best part about Rob Dillingham is that like he genuinely like changed how he played basketball for Kentucky. Because before Kentucky, he was very much like a, singular one-on-one guy. Um, but then he became more of a playmaker at Kentucky, and I think with the amount of like shake and bake he has and like separation he's able to generate, I think it will help his playmaking even more. And the spacing I think will help in the NBA level. He's just a good shooter. He's a good offensive player. And I like this fit with the Spurs actually. Even though this is a little high for me, I like this. I like the fit. I like the fit here.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely don't have him top five on my draft board. I just think the lack of guard play and what they need offensively.
Mhm.
I just that's why I did it.
Yeah. So I actually think this sets up like the dream scenario for Pistons fans. If Risa Shea is there at 5, I think this is a home run selection. I think he brings exactly what they need. Pistons have kind of ignored fit for far too long. I'm someone who values fit. However, obviously, there's a balance between best player available and fit. And so you got to find that balance. And the Pistons have just been going best player available and not been even concerned about the fit, which I think is good early on, but I think it's leached. It's lasted way too long. I love Asar Thompson so much, but I think he was the wrong option there last year. And I think this year, if they can get a guy like Risa Shea is able to shoot and actually space the floor, because that's their number one problem is their defense is not that great and they can't space the floor. And Asar only helped with one of those things. Risa Shea is able to help with both of these things, and I think is a perfect fit here. This is a home run selection if the Pistons if he falls to 5. Home run selection.
Yeah, for sure. And I also think this is really good for Ricochet himself. That he doesn't a lot of his biggest one of his biggest questions is shot creation. Can he create his own shot? I don't think in Detroit he has to that much. I think obviously Kate's the number one guy. I don't know what they're going to do with Ivy, but obviously he's a driving kick guy more so than Ricochet. So I think just it makes sense for both. You know, the Pistons they need spacing, they need they need playable wings, playable players, they need talent.
Yeah,
But I think like in terms of like number one creator, I think they're okay for a rebuilding team. So I think for both parties, this is like a really good scenario.
totally agree. And like this would be the first player at the Pistons draft that can actually shoot in a very long time. But I
Right.
think what they drafted Killian and then Cade and then Ivy and then Asar, none of those guys can shoot, and it's like, oof. Um,
Yeah.
but this is going to help them a lot, I think. So
Right.
now
No.
you are up next at number 6, which is the Hornets.
Yep. So I'm actually higher on the Hornets core than most people. Um, I think I don't know. I'm just like the three main guys, Brandon Miller, Mark Williams, LaMelo Ball. I like that. Like I know LaMelo's injury stuff. I'm not gonna get into that. I'm not gonna waste time. I think Steven Castle complements that a lot. I don't think you want Brandon Miller being your point of attack defender. He's a good defender, but I think he's gonna be focused on scoring and playmaking at the secondary level. So I think Steven Castle, the two things he can do well, I know he can do well, is defend and fit within a team. And I think perfectly he can just be the backcourt mate, LaMelo Ball. He can take some defensive pressure off of Steven Castle, and he can just get guys involved. I think it just makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, totally. And I think one of the things that doesn't get talked about enough is like how much he did sacrifice for the team. Um, he could have very easily gone to a different team and just been head dead set on being the point guard and being the guy. But he decided to go to UConn because he wanted to win, and he went to UConn and he won. And a lot of that was because of him sacrificing his role. Um, what I will say is that he said in this draft cycle that he doesn't want to go to a team that has a point guard already. So I feel like he said that because he didn't want to specifically go to these two teams that are drafting 6 and 7, which are or three teams, I guess. I don't think he wants to go to the Pistons. I don't think he wants to go to the Hornets, and I don't think he wants to go to the Blazers. However, I don't think it's a bad fit to have him on the Hornets, especially next to LaMelo Ball, because LaMelo could really use someone who actually takes his defensive assignments. And I think he'd actually be a solid player on Charlotte. And if he gets drafted there, it's like, I mean, what are you gonna do? Sit out? You're a rookie. He's gonna play.
Right.
Uh, so I do like this for the Hornets a lot. I think Steph Castle's a really good player.
Sure.
All right, I'm up next at 7. The Blazers. All right, Blazers fans, I am not drafting you guys a guard. So rest easy on that. I know a lot of people have Connect going here. A lot of people have Saloon going here. Um, this is gonna be interesting, but I'm gonna go T. Saloon here. I think he offers a lot of upside to this Blazers team that is looking for someone who has upside that's not a guard. They could use some wings and some forwards. And I think of the guys here that are on the board, I think he probably has the highest upside question mark. Um, Matas Buzelis could very easily fit here as well, but I'm a little bit lower on Matas than I think most people are. Um, and I'm a little higher on Saloon than I think most people are. And I think he'd just be a really solid fit here with the Blazers. He'd have actual time to improve his game and be able to develop on this team. So I think this is a great selection here.
Yeah, I do think Portland's one of those teams that they're they're able to wait on Salon. I think
Yeah.
they're not going to compete anytime soon. I think a lot of their front court players are like not like in their long term plans. I think they have a lot of backcourt and wings set for the future. So I think it makes a lot of sense.
All right. So you are up next at 8 with the Spurs again.
Right, right. So I think Kinet would be obviously a great fit. Just like with the immediate like a immediate sniper with some a little bit of positional size, but I'm gonna surprise you a bit, like I did with the Dillingham pick.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with Ron Holland.
Okay.
Now, I'm much higher on Ron Holland than like what's been previously reported. Like it's been reported he could fall out of the lottery. I think he's his potential to be like the best point of attack defender in this draft. I still buy the driving. I buy the athleticism. I buy the strength. I think this is a best player available pick for me.
Mhm.
I know a lot of people don't see it that way. I do. I know the fit's definitely questionable. His shot is not there at all. I I just I'm just very high on his defensive upside and driving upside personally.
Yeah, that's an interesting pick. I'm also very high on Ron Holland. This feels like the very like top of his
Range.
range essentially. Yeah. Um, I think I mean he pairs well enough with I think Rob Dillingham with what you're going for. He provides defense. I think he will provide defense. He wasn't an amazing defender on the Ignite, but I do think he'll grow into a good defender. I do see him having a very high ceiling as well. So the interesting pick. But it makes it fun. It makes it because a lot of people don't mock Holland this high, don't mock Dillingham this high. So it'll be weird and fun exploring different player positions now. Because now it's like for who's at nine right now, right? The Grizzlies, like they have Matas Buzelis on the board now. Like that's really interesting.
Yeah.
So I like this pick. I like you spicing it up.
Thank you.
All right. To me, for this Grizzlies pick, they usually like to draft guys who they are willing to take some time with. Um, and I think the Grizzlies would be picking between either Buzelis, Connect, Cody Williams, or Devin Carter here. I'm gonna give the Grizzlies. This is interesting. I'm gonna give them Buzelis.
Okay.
And I think what's interesting about Buzelis is that like he was a good shooter in high school, but didn't really shoot well last year. Um, I think that the Grizzlies would take this pick and they would bank on him to improve the shooting. And I think essentially he'd be like a potential Jake LaRavia replacement if they do trade Jake LaRavia or whatever. I think he'd be solid there. I could also very well see them taking someone like Connect or Devin Carter here. But I think the Grizzlies are in like they're in like a weird spot where like they're good enough to be in the playoff race without having to like nail this pick right away. So they can take their time on a guy like Buzelis who's going to need some development time.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, I mean, they already nailed uh some of their picks with Vince Williams and Gigi Jackson. So yeah, there's no pressure on Buzelos to play right away, and like he's obviously one of the upside swings of this draft. That's no secret.
All right. Up next, number 10, the Jazz. This is you, Wes.
So Utah, they're just kind of like in a rebuild, but like since they have Laurie Markkinen and some other players, they're not bad enough to be picking top five. But there's still a team that's looking towards the future. So I'm just looking at best upside right here. So I think I'm gonna go with Cody Williams just because the age, and he has, I think he has a lot of like play finishing upside at every level, the shooting, the driving, the above the rim finishing. Um, and I think yeah, he has a very long plus wingspan, so that's where the defensive upside would come in. And I think yeah, Utah's like they're not trying to win now. I think they can wait with him. The reason I wouldn't take a guard like Topic or whatever, I think I kind of want to see what Keontae George can do with like a lot of not a lot, but a good amount of on ball creator volume. See what happens. I mean, I don't know what's gonna happen with Colin Sexton or Jordan Clarkson, but I don't want to bunch up the guard room too much for the sake of Keontae. So, and I think this is a good upside pick that'll fit in generally well with the current roster for Utah.
Yeah, it's been reported that they are very high on him. So like I could very well see this actually happening draft night. Um, I think he's a good fit for this team. I mean, he's 19. He's got a huge ceiling ahead of him. If he just proves that the shooting is actually a real thing instead of, because it's kind of wishy-washy because he didn't have a very high volume. He
Yeah,
shot,
yeah. Percentage is a little misleading. Yeah.
yeah. So he's gonna have to prove some people wrong in certain areas, but I think the defense I think will translate. He just got to bulk up a little bit.
Oh yeah, for
I think
sure.
this is a really good. You're right. This is a really good swing. This is a really good upside swing for the Jazz who can afford to take these swings.
All right. So for you, we got the Chicago Bulls at pick 11.
All right, for the Bulls here, this is it. This is interesting. I think I'm gonna go. Wow. Okay.
I can scroll down a bit. Let's see
Yeah,
more other
just
options.
just a, just a bit, just a tad.
Yeah.
All right. I think there's a real chance I think Edie could go here if the board falls this way. However, I'm gonna pick Dalton Connect because I want to stop that run. I think he's fallen too far. Dalton Connect is just a really, really good offensive player. His defense is a little bit in question, but overall, in general, he's a really, really elite offensive talent. He's a little bit older, and the Bulls are trying to contend. So I think a guy like Connect would help them immediately right away with shooting, especially. He should be able to space the floor for them. Um, so yeah, it's a really weird spot to draft for the Bulls because I maybe I would have picked Topic. However, uh, what's his name? Josh Giddey
Josh
just
Giddey trade.
yep, Josh Giddey just got traded to them. So it's like now it's like ooh, that's a horrible fit if you're having Kobe White and Topic and Giddey. That's an awful fit. So I'm gonna go Connect here, and I'm gonna bank on him helping them now, which is apparently is what the
Yeah.
Bulls want to do.
Yeah.
So
And also, I think he's obviously like he's like maybe the best shooter in the draft, and the Bulls like probably the worst shooting team in the league. And they might resign DeMar DeRozan. I think he's it definitely makes a lot of sense for them to pick him, and he definitely play now, and he definitely helped their offense a lot.
yeah, I think for me, I was picking between Connect, Carter, and Edie there.
Right, right. So now I got the Oklahoma City Thunder at 12.
Yep.
So this is one of the best teams in the league, not a debate. I think this team's championship window started last season. So I need to get someone that can help them, that can play in the playoffs, and can help them win. Now, I'm eyeing Devin Carter because he's really good defensively, knows raw offensively, the shooting's improved, and it's a lot like the case in Wallace pick. So, like, if Devin Carter was a wing, I'd 100%, I'd rush to the podium, I'd pick him, right? Easily. I think from like a day one perspective, he's probably easily the best player on the board. But that it, but maybe that guard room's a little crowded, maybe. But he does have a long wingspan. He can hold up defensively in a lot of areas. So I'm also eyeing De Silva, win now wing for sure. I mean, Edie as a backup five, maybe. I mean, but I'm still gonna go with Devin Carter. I think he can play. He can play around a little bit. I think he's a versatile player, the wingspan and whatnot, and just from a day one perspective, best player available.
Yeah, I think this is a good pickup right here. I really like Devin Carter. I think the best comp for him is Derek White. He's a really hard worker and he hustles a lot all over the floor. Uh, we're gonna hope and pray the shooting translates. I think it will. But he definitely needs that to keep his game afloat, I think. Solid driver. I think he does a little bit of everything, a little small, but and a little old, but I think he'd be a great depth piece for this OKC team. So I could definitely, I think if he's there, I think they take a swing at him just because I think he's such a really good player.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, I'm up at 13 for the Kings, and this is an interesting position for the Kings.
Just resigned Malik Monk a few days ago, a couple days
I'm
ago.
gonna go. I'm gonna go. This might be a little high. I'm gonna go Tristan da Silva here.
Okay.
They could go a few different directions as well, but I think the Kings could really use another forward to help them out. I know they've discussed trading Harrison Barnes, or they've discussed trading for another forward, and I think Da Silva would fit well here. And if I kind of expect the Kings to trade this pick. I mean, hopefully to the Wizards, possibly for Kuzma. So if that does happen, I think the Wizards would go in a different direction. But if I'm the Kings and I'm picking for the Kings, I think Tristan da Silva makes a lot of sense here.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree. I think I think this Kings team is still trying to win now. I mean, they've the contracts given to Sabonis, obviously resigned Monk. I think, and outside of Keegan Murray, like you don't really see like a long term forward, and I think the Silva can easily just be a plug and play guy.
Mhm.
All right, now I have pick 14 with Portland, and you picked Salon for them.
Yep.
So I'm just going through my choices.
It gets tougher the further you go, man. It's like when people
Yeah.
start getting when
All right.
prospects it's like wow,
I
man.
think I know what I'm gonna do.
All right.
I think I'm gonna go with Khalil Ware.
Okay. I could
I
see that.
think they don't have a long term center on their roster. I don't know how committed they are to Aiton. Um, and Robert Williams, very, his health is very much in question. I think I'm a little bit lower, not lower on Chloe, but I have some questions with him, kind of with like just like like the defensive awareness and kind of like the motor and stuff.
Yeah.
I think yeah, it's like I think his floor is a little lower than people might realize, but I feel like his upside is pretty high as a rim runner. Kind of like he can kind of like say like low, somewhat comparable like to the Jarek Lively of this draft. Just freakishly athletic, has actual 3-point shooting upside. Like he shot really well on low volume, but like the shooting upside is definitely there. And he's just a huge 7-footer. It's really athletic and has also shown a lot of post scoring potential and a great roller as well. So I think he makes a lot of sense for this Portland Trailblazers team.
Yeah, I don't think they're married to Aiton necessarily, so like totally I think they could draft a backup for him. I like this pick for the Blazers. I'm up next with the Heat, and now I'm just starting to feel bad for Topic, but at the same time, I feel like the Heat would rather have a guy like Jared McCain on their team. So I'm taking Jared McCain here. And after this pick, we can scroll down and look at our little board real quick. But I think Jared McCain is one of the most underrated players in the draft. I think he's just such a sure shot to be good that I think the Heat could really use a guy like this. I thought he was Duke's best prospect when I was watching Duke, and I thought he was probably their best player as well. And he makes such an impact on both ends of the floor, especially with his shooting. And he's just like he's a guy who steps up in times when they needed him. And the Heat could really, I would say the Heat have two big areas of weakness. If they keep Jimmy Butler, if like that relationship hasn't been damaged at all, um, if they stick with Jimmy Butler, I think they need a point guard who can play off ball, which is what Jeremy McCain can do, and they need a four man. And so at the very least, they're addressing this issue right here, and they're getting Jeremy McCain. I think he's going to be their point guard for the future as well. He's just such a solid shooter, such a good player. I really, really like Jeremy McCain in this draft in general, and to the Heat, I think is a perfect fit.
Yeah, totally can't go. Yeah, I feel like he is, despite how young he is, I think he has a really decent floor as a floor spacing guard in this league.
100%. So this is our lottery plus one so far. And we've taken some risks, we've taken some jumps here and there. This is all for fun at the end of the day. This isn't like we're not we don't have inside information or anything, you know. So this is just for fun. We're having fun with it. Yeah, this is really cool. I like this. Let's hop
Yeah,
back. Yeah, go ahead.
there's definitely a fun way the board's playing out here. It's not
Yeah.
definitely not nothing we could have predicted before we started this. We definitely could have seen it going this way. So I think that's fun.
Yeah, like I mean, on it probably won't happen on draft night, but like the Grizzlies having to choose between Buzelis and Williams and Connect and Carter is like that's a huge choice for the. It was tough for me to make that choice.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's fun. I think this is a fun little draft. So let's continue. And
All
I
right.
think
So
you are up next at 16 with the Sixers.
yeah. So yes, Sixers roster can look very different with only having like 4 active players and like a bunch of cap space. So But at the end of the day, Daryl Morey's trying to build around Joel Embiid's window. Um, and like he and like Maxi, I guess, are seen as the only like foundational pieces. Obviously, they can then resign a lot of guys, sign star free agent. But this is going to be a good team next year. They're going to be in the playoffs. So I don't think they're willing to take Nikola Topic on. Uh, Maxi being the guard of the future. So I'm just going to look for someone for maybe a little bit of upside, maybe a little best player available, but ultimately someone who can play down the line in the playoffs. So I'm going to go with, I mean, it's probably a little high, but I'm going to go Terrence Shannon Jr.
Mhm. No,
Um,
this is a really realistic pick, I think. I think this is like where his range starts as well.
yeah.
I'm glad you made this pick.
Yeah, I think the range was a little tricky with like his, like with his case, which he
Oh
was,
yeah.
proven innocent in. But so I'm not, so that definitely has bounced back. But I think I'm really high on him. I think his slashing is like really going to translate. I think the volume shooting is definitely there. Definitely had a good clip. Also, the defense is easily playable defensively at the point of attack with the long arms. I think just, I mean, the only concern I really have with Terrence Shannon Jr. as a prospect is his age. Like for
Mhm.
his archetype, I don't really have too many issues, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, and I think if he didn't have those off-court issues with the case and all that, uh I think he would be going like right around here as well. Um Now that the case has been like resolved, I definitely see him climbing back up into this tier. I'm not as high on Terrence Shannon Jr. as you are, I don't think. I kind of have him more in the 20s, but I think this is a good landing spot for him, and I think this makes a lot of sense for the Sixers. I'm glad you did this, uh, because it makes sense for the Sixers. I think this is a very I think we could see this on draft night.
All right.
All right, I'm up next with the Pelicans. Okay,
So the Lakers.
sorry, it's the late. Yes, it was the Pelicans pick. I got
Yeah.
sent off to the Lakers. So okay, the Lakers last year took Jalen Hood-Schifino. And I hated that pick for them because I thought it was just an awful fit. Um, while he could end up being a good player, it was just a really, really bad situation to throw him on the Lakers like that when like the thing that they need most is floor spacing. That's the one thing that Hood-Schifino really couldn't do. So here, I think ooh, I'm gonna go. See, I don't know how much they're gonna expect a freshman to really make an impact on this team. However, I feel like they take the shot on Bub Carrington here. I know Jacoby Walters falling and Topic is falling, but I think Bub Carrington makes a lot of sense here. He's a big upside swing, but at the same time, he's a good upside swing, I think. I think if they didn't take him here, I think Jacoby Walter works just as well because he's an immediate shooter and helps right away. But if the Lakers are kind of focused on taking some more upside swings because they don't know how much longer they have with LeBron, I think this is a great get right here. I'm really high on Bub Carrington. I like would love if he fell to 26 for the Wizards, but I just don't think it's realistic, unfortunately. And I think God, I just really believe in his upside. I think he's gonna be a really good point guard one day. Like that's hate me for it. I like Bob Carrington a lot.
Yeah, I'm really high on Bub Carrington as well. I mean, for the reasons you said, and also they don't really have a young core established. With Rui Hachimura and Austin Reeves, they're 26 years old. They're not. There's not too much like ceiling isn't that much higher for them. So I think this would be a great pick for them. Also, just you don't know what's going to happen with LeBron in the short term future. So
Mhm.
I mean, this makes total sense for them.
All right, you're up at 18 with the Magic.
All right. Um, so I'm choosing between two here, and that's Jacoby Walter and Johnny Furphy. Some freshmen that are pretty good to great shooting prospects, and the Magic, despite having an amazing season for them, their shooting was not good, to say the least. Uh, so I'd say adding floor spacers around their core of Bankero and Wagner, I think is pretty important.
Mhm.
And I'm generally high on these two, so it's just choosing between Walter and Furphy. I know they have a good amount of guards, but I don't expect Fultz to be back or Cole Anthony's on the trade block. And I think he's like this would be one of the best like in terms of guard prospects, one of the best shooting prospects they've drafted in a while. So I think Walter makes a lot of sense for them just as an off-ball guard. It's a little bit of a little bit of a little bit of juice, scoring juice as well.
Mhm. This is so interesting that you didn't go Topic, um, but I respect it. I think Jacoby Walter would be a really good fit here. They definitely do need shooting. They need that was evident from their playoff series. They need some spacing around them, and Jacoby Walter would definitely provide that. He's also one of the best shooters in the draft. I'm not as high on Furphy as you are, and I think as most people are. I think a lot of people have Furphy pretty high. I'm not really that high on him, but I see where you're going for. I would have thought you went Topic, and so now you're messing up my board a little bit. Now I got to think a little harder about where I'm going. Um, okay. So I have the Raptors up next at 19. And I think the Topic slide ends here. I think the Raptors are looking just for some upside. I know he's not a great fit on this team, but like at some point, this is kind of where the best player available like situation comes up. I know a lot of people had Topic very high before the knee injury stuff came out. I I always had him like late lottery talent to like mid first round talent, even before the knee injury stuff. I'm not sure how much I believe in his ability to reach his ceiling. He does have a high ceiling, but I don't know if he's going to be able to actually reach it because of just, I don't. Well, first of all, the knee injury stuff was always concerning. But this is before we even knew how bad it was. I'm just concerned with how he gets to the basket, and a lot of it seems to be in transition. I don't think he's very explosive with a quick first step. I think most of his offense comes off screens, and I don't know if he's going to get that many screens called for him at the NBA level. And I think the threshold you have to be at to be like the main ball handler for your team is really high in the NBA. And so he needs to go to a team that is fully committed to him and is willing to give him the ball and let him figure it out. Which is why I think he's a very high, he's like a very big boom or bust prospect. There's a very good chance that he just does not get the ability to showcase his game by getting drafted to the wrong team. However, there's also a chance that he's actually able to develop his three-point shooting and start and develop his defense as well because he's not a great defender. He's not a great shooter. He's a good passer, but it's like he's kind of leaning into that like Josh Giddey tier or like in that vein of a prospect. And I'm not super. I'm those aren't my types of guys. So I'm not high on Topic personally. I understand if you are. I see the ceiling. I just don't think he gets there realistically, unfortunately. But I think here for the Raptors, you already lost your pick earlier in the lottery. I think you might as well take the biggest swing you can right here and take Topic. He's the guy with the highest ceiling on the board. So
Yeah, I totally agree. I think from out of majority of the teams, this is kind of one that makes more sense with quickly being only one of their long-term core guards. And I'm higher on topics than you are, but like I still get the concerns. Like in general, if a player can't shoot or defend, I'm usually going to be lower on him. But I mean, the Raptors, they finally have entered a rebuild process. So, and their guard room isn't too crowded. So I like this for Toronto.
yeah, my biggest question with Topic is like, how does he get minutes if he's not defending and if he's not able to space the floor? Like, it's just he needs, like I said, like he needs to go to a team that is very committed to developing him, and that's hard to find, and that's why I'm lower on him because of that. But yeah, let's move on to number 20, which is I believe the Cavaliers, which is you.
Yep. So, it's very interesting pick right here. So yeah, for Cleveland, I was a little unsure about, if Garland or Jared Allen's getting traded or not. But something I've always like kind of for them, always grab with it, have had with them is like having that true small forward that can start in the playoffs. Because they've always switched out Levert and Okoro. And now they have Struess, who I like Struess, not as a starting small forward though. I just don't think the size is there. But he's a good volume shooter. So I think my goal here is trying to get their wing for them. I mean, Terrence Shannon would be good for them, but obviously I took him for Philadelphia. So I think they're still trying to win now. So I'm trying to get that wing that can shoot. And I actually am not as high as Furphy as well, or Keyshawn George. So I'm gonna. This is a very pick you're gonna be very iffy about. I'm gonna go Tyler Smith. I think I buy the shooting. A lot of the other stuff I'm not too keen on, but I definitely think he's I think he's an upside swing, and I definitely think he can get on to the floor with his athleticism and and as a shooting threat for this team.
I like this pick. I think if you're gonna reach, you might as well reach for a guy like this. There's a couple other players that also fit here as well, but I don't mind this pick at all. I think this is a solid pick for the Cavs. I think he fits well. All right, going to 21, which is the Pelicans. Um, wow, I mean, I don't really exactly know where the Pelicans. They're an interesting team, and I don't really exactly know where they want to go yet with their roster. But they have guys like Trey Murphy. They're probably trading Brandon Ingram. So there's going to be a hole open there, but they have Herb Jones. They have CJ. I think I think this is a situation where it's like I don't think they want to go Edie because I think they'd prefer a floor spacing five to put next to Zion. Um, so I'm kind of ruling out Edie. I'm kind of ruling out well, you know what? I'm gonna go Kyle Filipowski here. I think Filipowski could actually work next to Zion Williamson. And I think as well he'd be like a solid big off the bench for them to provide some spacing for them a little bit. Also be able to make some. I think he's makes solid decisions with passing the ball. I think he's a solid fit here for the Pelicans.
Yeah, I think it definitely the Blue Devil front court with him and Zion is definitely intriguing. I mean, I don't view him as a day one starter, and I question of the defense and athleticism and if the shot is translatable. But I think this is a really good situation for what the Pelicans want. If they want like a smart big man who can like shoot around Zion, this is definitely a guy that can develop into like a decent starter level that can really raise the ceiling of the offense.
Yep. All right. You are up next with the Suns at 22.
So yeah, the Suns don't like control pretty much any of the draft capital, salary caps in hell with the second apron and whatnot. So yeah, I think it's interesting because you can like do you like try to go upside to preserve the very grim future they have, or do you try to like add something for because they're still going to be a playoff team. So it's pretty interesting to look at here. I'm gonna go with I think a very frequently mocked guy to Phoenix. I'm gonna go with Vives Missy. Um, I think he's a pretty cool prospect. Like I'm not like super high on him or anything, but I think he's like freakishly athletic. He has like a little bit. He likes to like kind of like attack bigs in space a bit. And he has in the defense is definitely like something that can be is definitely one of his strong suits that can maybe translate. I just think this team lacks a lot of athleticism. They had a Nurkic Eubanks center rotation that's not going to cut it. I think just for invoking some a little bit of athleticism and youth and at a position of need, I think this is a decent pick for them.
Yeah, I would have been picking between like Missy Collier and Edie here. But I think you made it. I think you made a solid decision. I'm not as high on Missy, but I see the vision. They definitely need a big man. Nurkic is cool, but like he's not the answer for him right now. And I think Missy's also somebody who could actually James Jones typically doesn't value draft picks very much, so I can easily see this being traded. Um, but at the same time, like if he did value these draft picks and did want to pick for some youth, because there's not that much youth on the Suns going forward, right? So I mean, I think he's an all right upside swing here. So yeah, I could see this. Let's hop on over to the Bucks at 23, which is me. Um, I mean, they could go a number of different directions here. I think they'd go for a guy like Johnny Furphy. I think they'd want some outside shooting. They need some help on the wing. I think this could be a guy who could help them right away. The Bucks are obviously looking to contend, so I think this is a solid pick for the Bucks here. All right, you're
Yeah.
up next at unless you want to talk about that pick a little bit.
Oh no, I definitely agree.
Okay, cool.
That's
Um,
perfect.
you're up next at 24 for the Knicks.
Yeah. So obviously me knowing Thibodeau as their coach, well, I want to pick Ryan Dunn, but I think that's a bit too steep for pick 24, where his offense is right now.
Hmm.
Um, so I'm gonna go with Deron Holmes.
Hmm.
He was he's low on the fence before, so I kind of forgot about him. But I think I think it's an element the Knicks could use of a little bit of a floor spacing big, that's versatile and can definitely is um definitely can add another element offensively. I think just and I think the Thibs can get the defensive translate as well. I think yeah, and this is a team definitely with a win now window with the right to pay OG and Anobi the big bucks and whatnot. So yeah,
Yeah, I mean, this is a big who can dribble, pass, shoot. Um, the shot is a little bit in question, and the defense is in question, and I think the rebounding is not exactly where you want it to be. But at the same time, I mean, he played in I think he played in a 5-out offense, so he's good to go. Like in terms of he has a lot of skills for a big man. He is a little undersized, but he's a good upside swing here. I think what's interesting about Holmes is I think his draft range is so wide. I think it might be the widest in the draft.
yeah,
Like, I could see him going as high as like 12 to the Thunder. And I could see him dropping all the way down to like 30 to the Celtics. Like there's a very wide range for Deron Holmes. I like that you made this selection though. I think he's a first rounder. Um, I'm not as high as some people are on him, but I think he has a chance to be a good player. So yeah.
yeah. So and it's New York again for you.
Oh, this is fun. Okay. So you just picked Deron Holmes for the Knicks. Um, he could even, I mean, Deron Holmes is almost like a little mini Julius Randle replacement. So here's my thing. If OG Anunoby leaves the Knicks, that sucks a lot. Um, I know they're probably not looking at Edie here because they're actually probably trying to deal Mitchell Robinson, which was reported a little earlier. I think here would be a solid place for someone like, let's do it. I'm high on this guy. I like him a lot. Let's go Baylor Shireman here. I think they could use a guy like Baylor Shireman. I think he provides a lot on offense that they'll need, especially in like a playoff setting. And I think he's a little underrated. I know he's old, and I know his defense isn't the best, but I think he's a little bit better on defense than most people give him credit for. And I think he's a little better on offense than most people give him credit for. I don't think he's just purely a shooter. I think he can go inside a little bit as well. So I like Baylor Shireman here. And I think he'd be a really good fit with the Knicks.
Yeah, I think the Knicks rotation is like filled out a lot, but I think a big kind of shooting create a little bit of creating guard would definitely be like a fun little layer to that. So I have nothing wrong with this pick.
And like if there was like an obvious wing that like stood out, I think I'd probably prefer him over Baylor, but like I'm just high on Baylor Shireman, so I think I think he'd be a good fit there. Now is 26 with you. So you're back with the Wizards again. We're both
Yeah,
facing the
and
Wizards, so don't mess this up, buddy.
yeah,
This is
for me, I'm rushing to the podium for Isaiah Collier.
Mhm.
I'm super high on him. I know his draft stock plummeted like once the season started, once he had a rough start to his freshman year at USC. But to me, I just buy him as a creator. I buy the advantage creation. He's a strong guard, bowling ball. And I buy the playmaking upside, with the high turnovers. I think I think he can make a lot of quick reads out of the pick and roll. I think he can get to he'll have like a strong free throw rate, and I don't think the shooting is as bad as it's being said. Free throw percentage is definitely a worry, but he shot around like 37% on catch and shoot threes. Going to be a I don't think it's going to be like toppage level concern. I buy a little bit of the shot, which is something definitely more than someone who's just like a completely like awful shooter. I wouldn't call him awful. So yeah, and I think for the Wizards they don't really have a, like a long term guard. Most of the roster's wings. We just drafted Sar, so yeah, he can even be in the G League this year if we drafted him. I'm just bought in on the creator upside of him personally.
Yeah, well, I'm not like super high on Collier. I think this is a amazing value for him. I think if he falls to 26, I do think the Wizards should be going up and trying to get him. Um, he has some issues, but at the same time, this is a Wizards team where you can feel free to have some issues because we're not going to be good for a few years. So I think this is a really, really good upside swing here. And I actually really like this pick for the Wizards. I approve. All right. So I'm up with the Wolves at 27. And I think for the Wolves, this is interesting. I feel like they'd want to draft someone who could come in and help right away. They were really close to getting to the to getting to the finals. Like I say really close, but like a few games away, from getting to the finals. I think they need to find someone who can help push them over the edge. I think they might as well take the shot on Tyler Kolek here because who's the starting point guard right now? It's Conley, right?
Conley, and then Monte Morris is a free agent. I don't expect them to keep him.
Exactly. Like they're kind of lacking depth at the point position, and I think he would help them right away, right here, and also be like a decent like future piece. I know he's a little bit old, but it doesn't mean he doesn't have any upside. I think this would be a solid selection right here for the Wolves. Especially he's also insurance if Mike Conley gets hurt. He is old. I know he doesn't get hurt very often, but like if he does go down, they're gonna need someone to fill in. I think he would fill in fine.
Yeah, totally. This is a win now team, and Kolek's like I think definitely like one of the best playmakers in the draft, and I buy a little bit of the shooting, scoring. I'm low on the defense, and just low on the upside in general. But for a team like Minnesota, it makes total sense.
Yeah. And you can kind of cover up some of the defense with, Rudy Gobert, which is kind of what he does. Yeah.
Yeah. So now we have the 2022 champions who lost to Minnesota Timberwolves in 7 games. So yeah, I'll just be quick with this. This team's issue is depth. Uh, Obviously the starting lineup wasn't as good as it was. It didn't perform as well as it did the year before, but ultimately the depth just wasn't it for a championship level team. And I'm choosing between two players, unless there's someone I'm missing. I could choose him. But yeah, I think I'm choosing between, I guess, three would be Zach Edey, Jalen Tyson, and Adem Bona. So they didn't have a backup level center. It was like either Aaron Gordon's full time or you had DeAndre Jordan, Zeke Naji. Like that just wasn't cutting it. Like Jokic, he has amazing stamina, but you you kind of need someone to at least like not get completely killed in the backup minutes.
Mhm.
I'm gonna go with Edie. I want him to get drafted. Like, I used to be a hater, but I think a lot of it can translate. I think this is like a good enough situation where like some of his issues when he get exposed like defensively, and I think he can be like a little bit of a hub. You can be a great screener. You can be a little post up option. I just think in the non Jokic minutes, I think you can take this risk just because of how bad it's been. And I think his offensive upside is high. I think the defending the space thing is hard, but I think the Nuggets scheme kind of is to like, hedge, like don't let Jokic get attacked. They could do the same with Edie.
Yeah, I think this is actually a really good fit for Edie. I feel like if he was going to succeed anywhere, I think it could be right here on the Nuggets. I'm also not very high on Edie, but like I do see him as a first rounder. I do think he will end up going in the first round. And I think to the Nuggets will be really good. I'm a little cheesed though, because I was so ready to pick Edie for the Jazz, which are next. I was so ready to go and just be like, okay, this is the perfect fit. Because we've gotten rumors of Walker Kessler wanting out, and I was like, okay, bam, just slam Zach Edey right back in there. But yeah, so now I'm scrambling a little bit for the Jazz, but this is a good pick for the Nuggets. Okay. I think for the Jazz, they want to go because Edie's off the board now. I think they're going to go best player available, and I think, or not best player available, but highest upside available.
Right.
And I think that comes down to three different players, or four, I guess. I think it comes down to Dadier. I think it comes down to Dunn, to Clintman, and to what's it, Kaishan George.
Okay.
So I'm going to. I think I'm gonna go Dadier here. And I really think I think he definitely has the most, I don't know if he definitely has the most upside here, but I think he has a really high ceiling. And this is a good place for him to go to the Utah Jazz and like explore this ceiling as well. The Jazz could use help at every position really. And so I think this is a good place for him to experiment and see what translates from France, what translates over to America for him. And the hope with him is like, what's interesting is that like I kind of have like Salon and like Dadier are like not that far apart for me. And so what's interesting is Salon goes is going so high and Dadier is as low as he is here, but I think he has some real upside to him, and I think this is the best pick for the Jazz here.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Daddy is one of my draft darlings. I just buy a lot with him. I'm not gonna get into it, but yeah.
Mhm.
So last pick for me is the defending champs Boston Celtics. So yeah, they're just trying to win another championship. Their windows now. I'd say their depth was like a little concerning. I guess they have maybe you could say front court questions with
And what's
Horford's age
interesting,
and
what's yeah, I'll say what's interesting with the Celtics as well is that like they could very well take a risk here as well. They don't like need to make a win now selection, you know? Like they could take a risk and take a guy that just develops in the background. And this is why I hate the Celtics because they're already like one of the most stacked rosters, and now they're just adding another
right,
young guy. But yeah,
right.
I'll continue. I'll let you go ahead.
Yeah, but I'm gonna go with the win now guy. I think their bench was Hauser, Pritchard, Horford.
Mhm.
So I'm just gonna add a win out piece. So I'm choosing between Jalen Tyson, Adam Bona. Uh, I think those are the two I'm picking two right now. I mean, you could look at them as reaches, but yeah. So I'm probably gonna go with Tyson. I think his stock has slowly been rising, but
Mhm.
it's definitely been a gradual rise, and I think teams like him a lot. And he's definitely, I think, a playable guy in a rotation. And I think it makes a lot of sense. I think he has decent positional size for his position. And I think he's just like, yeah, smart player that can contribute right away.
Yeah, I think it's a solid pick. I think a lot of people are going to question why we don't have Kaishan George here at all. But like at the same time, I'm not like super high on him. I know he's a good shooter, but at the same time, like I don't know. From what I remember, his stats were pretty low. Yeah, like only he only got like 7 minutes a game,
Yeah,
7
he's viewed
points
as
a
a
game.
long-term guy.
He's definitely like a huge upside swing, and so I could definitely see him going here to the Celtics. I could also see Ryan Dunn going here or Bobby Clement. But yeah, you're right. If they want to win now, guy, I think Jalen Tyson's the best bet here. And yeah, that's so unfortunate because I don't like the Celtics, but here they are going for it. All right, so that was all 30 of our picks for a first round, for our first round mock draft. If y'all listen this far, you might as well leave a like, you know. Um, this is a really interesting board. I had a lot of fun doing this. It's such an interesting draft where like what's crazy is that like the consensus right now, I think you told me this off air, but the consensus right now doesn't really mean much. Like
Yeah,
all it takes is like a few teams to like a few guys better. And this draft, I feel like the tiers of talent after a certain point just get really, really big. Like there's a lot of people in the same tier. And so they could go anywhere within those tiers, and like I wouldn't be surprised. And this is probably going to be one of the more unpredictable drafts. So even though it's a little bit weaker at the top, I think this is a chance to be more fun to watch on draft night because we don't know what's going to happen, right?
yeah, and also like, and then also like doing this, like kind of the process of it, because maybe this draft's a little deeper than we think. Like leaving off some guys that I thought were going to go in the first round. I think that's kind of fun to look at. Also in the comments, leave who was the better drafter, me or Bert. Comment me, comment me.
Sure, let's go ahead. Scroll down a little bit further because I think we're cutting some picks out.
Oh yeah, I was just leaving the.
No, you're good, you're good. But yeah, this is our draft board. If you're a fan of one of these teams, let us know if we made the right decision, what you would do, what you would do differently, who's the better drafter, as Wes said. But I want to thank you, Wes, for coming on here. It's been a pleasure to mock draft with you once again, and it's been really fun.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me. I was really amped for this, so as you know, so but
Oh, he
yeah.
was blowing up my DMs nonstop. But thank you once again for hopping on. You're welcome anytime, man. Thank you all for watching. Have a great day, and we'll see you draft night. Well, I guess you'll see the draft on draft night, hopefully. Um, yeah, hopefully a new. I might make a. I'm hopefully making another mock for just myself, my own personal mock. So be on the lookout for that. Yeah, thank you for watching once again. I've been Bert, and we are signing off on Speak Truth Sports. Thank you.